Hey, Eagles fans, if you're a subscriber to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, you are already registered to win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming season. That's right, you could win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming 2021 season just for being a subscriber. If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, do it now. Subscribe to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel right now. What do you need to do? Subscribe right now.
It's your buddies on Birds 365, Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald. We've got a third participant, one of our favorite guests here on Birds 365. You should be reading them all the time on his Eagles website, Bleeding Green Nation. It's BLG, Brendan Lee Gowton with us. BLG, you've been doing this for a while now. As good an opener as you can remember in quite some time?
Yeah, I mean, pretty encouraging for a team that, had a lot of question marks heading into the season. I don't think you could have asked for much of a better start.
Yeah, I mean, you got to really nitpick, but that's what we got to do, BLG. We got to nitpick. We got to come up with something. If you're head coach Nick Sirianni, and I think this is as good a debut as you can possibly have hoped for. That was my first question to him. I said, could this have gone better? And as you're a coach, you got to go back and you got to keep these guys on mission, so to speak. And how do you do that? What do you point to and say, we got to clean this up? We got to clean this up. Couple missed tackles, penalties, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, well, we saw that video come out from the locker room, and we've seen Nick Sirianni talk about it in the press conferences, the dog mentality that he's really big on, apparently, and being hungry and everything. And I think you highlighted some of the things there. The penalties were crazy. There's just so many. I think they had, 11 or so or more than that.
Just 26 total. Both teams. Yeah.
It was crazy. And just too much pre-snap stuff, too. A lot of that can just be cleaned up. So, obviously some of that. And, look, they didn't play a lot in the preseason. Maybe this is some of that, kind of like figuring out and shaking off that rust and something you can kind of work through there. But yeah, I mean, we do have to nitpick because that's what we do. But, there isn't a whole lot to really be concerned about just from that week one showing itself.
Right. And even if you can attribute those pre-snap penalties to the fact that they didn't get a lot of work in as a unit in preseason games, I think you got to say their overall use of their time since they reported to camp, while we may have sat here and questioned it and said, are they doing enough? Are they doing enough? Are they doing enough? The results were the results week one, not only with their success on the field, but again, no injuries. They didn't have major injuries going in, and they got none coming out, as a matter of fact. So the old phrase of sometimes less is more seemed to work perfectly for the Eagles in this preseason.
Absolutely. And on the injury point, I would say, looking at the other side, and I think the Falcons are clearly bad, to be clear here. But, I mean, they didn't have any players on their 53-man roster who were even on the final injury report. So they were at full health, and the Eagles still whooped them. I think that's kind of another kind of feather you can put in the Eagles' cap there, so to speak. But, yeah, I mean, staying healthy, obviously key. And then staying healthy in this game, didn't suffer too many major injuries is a whole other reason to not only feel encouraged about how they performed, but how they're moving here forward. And, so I think you can say the approach so far, so good.
Okay, well, let's start with some of the good stuff, Brandon. It's got to start with the quarterback. So I think in the offseason, we were all talking about 52%, 52%, 52%. Then after week one, we're at 77%. It's pretty amazing when you have a coach trying to take advantage of the strengths of the quarterback. You start with bubble screen. He didn't throw the football down the field a lot, but once you get those early completions, you have more confidence. And when he does throw it down the field to Devontae Smith, all of a sudden touchdown. A little bit underthrown to Zach Ertz, but you get a completion down the field. How impressive was just the use of Jalen Hurts and what he does well to you?
Yeah, underthrown to the point where it was actually incomplete, and the Eagles were lucky to get away with that. But yeah, I mean, I believe Hurts was 8 of 9 on throws over 10 yards. Now, again, those throws over 10 yards didn't really go a whole lot over 10 yards throughout the game. He had the lowest average intended air yards per NFL Next Gen stats from week 1. So, that's something we're going to have to see moving forward. You're not just going to be able to probably throw the ball as short as he did throughout the entire season like that. You're going to have to see him air it out. And, look, we have seen Jalen Hurts air it out in a small sample size in the past. So it's certainly something I believe he's capable of doing, at least when it comes to deep throws. But even just kind of working the intermediate areas of the field more, we're going to have to see that over time, and that's really going to be a question mark when it comes to his accuracy. But to start out, you have to give the coaching staff a ton of credit for scheming up a lot of easy throws or makeable throws or playing to Jalen Hurts' strengths. And I thought Jalen Hurts did a lot of good things with those throws. I mean, you look at that screen pass to Jalen Reagor on the touchdown. I mean, he stood in there and he took a big hit. He basically threw that pass to Reagor on target as someone was grabbing his legs and someone's taking him down. So I thought that was really impressive. I thought the touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert, when Goddard wasn't even uncovered, and having that communication and trust in him to throw that ball to him there was really impressive. That whole 2-minute drill, honestly, was just a really, really eye-opening kind of experience and really important moment for him and a turning point in the game to go up 2 possessions before halftime there. So, even though he didn't necessarily attempt the most difficult throws, he made some really good ones.
That is one thing that we as fans, media members, and Eagle fans love to do, and I'm right along with everybody else on that, is how you run that 2-minute drill, because it really accentuates the relationship between the play calling and the quarterback. You got to be able to do it right. You got to be able to see what you need to see. You got to be able to manage clock, the added challenge of that, and use of timeouts and the like. If that was their first major test of the year, I got to give them an A+ for it, because not only did they make the play on the touchdown to Goddard, they had already scored a touchdown, which got called back because Lane Johnson is downfield. So you do what you got to do, and then they go, no, try it again, and to deliver. I thought that was the highlight just for the entire game. If you had to pick out one aspect that was impressive, it was the way that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni as quarterback and play caller navigated that possession.
Absolutely. And I think, you even saw Sirianni give Hurts credit for some plays that may have not been the best calls or whatever, but Hurts kind of, using his mobility to get out of some bad situations and really, extend the drive himself. And that's something, John and I saw in training camp too, with Jalen Hurts running some of those 2-minute drills. I think of one, the one against the Jets in the final practice, like he was using his mobility to move the chains when something isn't there, pick up a first down. And that's big, just to be able to do that when the play isn't perfect, to be able to create yourself. There's a lot of value in that, and you saw it on that drive.
And 2 rookie touchdowns, Brandon. We got to talk about the rookies, I think, because that's the first time since at least 1950. I think John Gannott of the Eagles went back when 2 rookies scored a touchdown the opener. DeVonta Smith, I thought, was great. And he's such – Nate Tice put up – I don't know if you saw it. He put up a tweet today about DeVonta Smith calling out a corner blitz. His football IQ is even more impressive than his talent, I think. And that's a testament to Nick Saban. But the fact the Eagles have him as a player. And then Kenny Gainwell, you mentioned the Jets. That was the first time you really saw the Eagles were trying to see if Kenny Gainwell was up to speed to be that third down back, to be that 2-minute offense back, to be that guy who could be on the field, catch the football in those types of situations. How impressed were you with those 2 rookies, playmakers specifically?
Yeah, on the DeVonta point, I remember, I think it was Bruce Feldman who had kind of pointed out like a pre-draft scouting report about how people just kind of noticed DeVonta Smith on the sidelines at Alabama was like calling out what the defense was running. Like he said, he kind of has such a high level. Like that's a big reason why I felt like the Eagles had to draft him. It's not just that he's talented. Like this guy really just knows football. He knows how to play the position. He's so smart and talented and so smooth, very effortless when he's out there. Incredible. Really encouraging debut from him. Obviously led the team in targets and receptions. I think he's going to have a really big year. I feel very confident about that. I think he's only going to get better with more experience. And Kenny Gainwell, I'm kind of surprised he's here just from the standpoint of he didn't have the best start to camp. I thought he kind of, not a terrible start, but a slower one. And he really came on towards the end though. And he kind of justified that hype that everyone was very excited that was surrounding him after he was drafted, when the Eagles took him and thought he was a steal. And I think he's a nice, really, number 2 complimentary piece. I mean, it's kind of crazy that, you have Miles Sanders here, and everyone was really excited about Miles Sanders, and I thought he had a good game, but like he's already been supplanted as the 2-minute drill back.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty crazy for a rookie to kind of just come in, a day 3 pick, a guy who didn't play football last year to come in and instantly take that role and look natural in it. So it's a big testament to Kenny Gainwell that he's already been able to kind of step up into that role.
Do you think that's going to stay, or do you think that's one of the Nick Sirianni don't want to show everything, keep the opposition off balance? Although I'm in the moment of trying to win game 1, I know I've got week 2 and week 3 and week 4. Do you think Gainwell's going to be their 2-minute back for the entire year?
I mean, we could, I don't know if it's the entire year, always 100% of the time, but I think for now, yeah, because I think there's a trust in him. I think he's a better proven receiving running back, especially with the concerns coming out of training camp about Miles Sanders with the drops and everything. And now Sanders did good again in the first game. So maybe as he continues to kind of prove that he can get back on track as a pass catcher, then maybe you see him more of a rotation involved in there or something. But for now, I think Gainwell should be the guy until he proves he shouldn't be.
All right, let's shift to the other side of the ball, Brandon, because I want to talk about this defense. It didn't look good early, but at the end of the game, you look up and you see 260 yards or so of offense for the Falcons. They didn't let them in the end zone, 6 points. That's pretty good in the modern NFL against anybody. Those numbers hold up. This is going to be the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. Defensive line was great. Back 7, if we get back to that nitpicking, there's some nits to pick. Specifically, especially with San Francisco coming in, their reputation for running the football. Can this team stop the run against a good football team?
I mean, they're going to be put to the test, like you said, this weekend. Eric Wilson had 4 missed tackles. Which is not like new to him.
Yeah,
I believe he had 17 last year, so that's a really big concern that you're going to continue to see moving forward. I mean, maybe you can chalk. We're talking about nitpicking earlier with the pre-snap penalties and everything. Maybe you can chalk up some of the missed tackling to, not having the full preseason experience and kind of still getting up to speed on that front. But I also think they just don't have they do have some not great tacklers on their defense. So that's going to be, I think, somewhat of an issue. But I think, in today's NFL, where it's all about passing, I think the Eagles are kind of okay with, obviously they want to stop the run as much as they can, but if they're going to allow some running plays, I don't think that's the end of the world for them. Ultimately, they didn't allow any plays over 20 yards, which is crazy. And I believe per Shil Kapati, it was like the only NFL team to do that in week 1. So I think they're kind of like funneling that. I think they're okay that they'll let teams, not necessarily again, run all over them, but I think they can limit the damage there as long as they're not big plays. If you get down to the red zone, you're able to make stops there. I think you can live with that. I think this defensive line obviously is going to be stout enough to stop that. Sometimes you're going to force some 3 and outs. I don't think you're just going to get consistently gassed all game long, but I do think it could pop up from time to time as an issue.
I don't know about you, BLG, but I had to go this morning to a couple of my draft guides, which I keep handy here at all times as I do Birds 365. I'm right to my right. Elijah Mitchell. I really don't remember talking about him. I take the draft very seriously. I got my guys like Rick Saratella from NFL Draft Bible, who I talk to all the time. I don't remember this kid from Louisiana, and he was a 6th-round pick after Kenny Gainwell was picked, and they turned to him this past week with Mostert going out as early in the game as he did, and he puts up 104 yards in his NFL debut. I think we all need to do a little studying up on Elijah Mitchell because, yeah, he's going to be the guy that the Eagles are challenged to have to stop on the ground come Sunday.
Yeah, I think I had the Eagles taking him, and I think the only mock draft that I did leading up to the draft, or if I didn't have him, I had him as one of the guys I kind of liked as a late day 3 guy. I think part of his production here is that he's in a Kyle Shanahan offense, and Kyle Shanahan typically finds a way to get the most out of running backs, especially ones who aren't necessarily high picks. So I think that's part of it. Obviously, a good week 1 debut for him. Wasn't a factor as a pass catcher and really wasn't necessarily a whole lot in college, so that might limit his value a little bit, kind of just more of a pure runner. So that's something to watch. But yeah, I think this defense obviously is going to be tested again. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan saw that tape of the Falcons running on the Eagles early on, and will be trying to do the same this weekend.
Yeah, it was interesting. Bob Lang of the Eagles was talking to us because he came back from the 49ers. He was talking to us about Raheem Mostert, who unfortunately got injured. Raheem was here. Raheem had got cut like 100 times. I don't know. It was ridiculous.
Jets
And all
cut
of
him
a
too.
sudden, yeah, and all of a sudden,
Right.
he gets out to San Francisco and he looks like a star in that rushing attack. It's pretty amazing. And it goes back to Kyle's dad in Denver. And you remember Alex Gibbs and what the Broncos were able to do. It kind of kept Terrell Davis out of the Hall of Fame for at least a little bit because people were saying, well, anybody can rush for 1,000 yards in Denver. Same thing in San Francisco. They turned every running back into an effective running back because of that rushing scheme. So I do think we're going to get a better sort of temperature taking this week, win or lose. I'm not in love with Jimmy Garoppolo. But the 49ers, we know they're a good football team. Do we now know the Eagles, BLG, are a good football team? Or is it too early?
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we know that they're a good football team. I think we know they're not an awful football team. I think we've learned that much. I think they've at least earned the right to that. It's really interesting this week because I think the 49ers are good, but I also, if you ever want to use the term moral loss, I feel like they kind of suffered one. Like, to be up 38-10 like they were and let the Lions back into it. And, Detroit had the ball, I believe, I forget the yard line, but I think in the 20s, down 8 points, had a chance to tie the game at the end of the game. And also a big reason for that comeback for Detroit was that the 49ers' best defensive back by far, Jason Verrett, got hurt. He's out for the year. And you saw Jared Goff have a much better passing split once he left the game. So I think, there's some concerns there. So I think the 49ers are good, but I think, I don't think they're perfect by any means. So I don't think the Eagles, I think it's reasonable that the Eagles are underdogs in this game, given there's still much for the Eagles to prove. It's just 1 week. You could look back at some of the week 1 scores from last year and see some weird things. I think that's like one of the only times the Jaguars won last year. It was like in week 1. So there's some weird things that happened in week 1. Yeah. So we'll see.
One of the things that I thought made that score not truly indicative of what it was, when you get an onside kick, you just don't bank on that. When that's a factor in a game, and yes, they got an onside kick to get the ball back to be able to get to one score. They at least the local Fox affiliate went to that game after the game was over and done with, so you did get a chance to look at it. The Lions dominated that game. The 49ers dominated the Lions in that game. Yeah, the final score might not be indicative. Had they got that second onside kick, it could have really actually been pretty damn interesting. They didn't. I think the 49ers established what they wanted and needed to establish in this first game. Quickie return to the offense, BLG. We talked about Kenny Gainwell. Will he be there 2-minute back for the entire season? If you believe everything you saw in game number 1, does that mean Boston Scott's not going to get a touch this year? He did not factor into the running game at all, played special teams, but nary a snap in the backfield on the running game. Anomaly. These two guys are going to be Sanders and Gainwell, the guys going forward, and a guy like Boston Scott doesn't get on the field unless there's some kind of an injury.
Well, you got to break him out for the New York Giants, New York Jets game.
That's true.
As we know, Boston Scott's a New York killer. I don't think he's going to go the whole season with 0 touches. Obviously, even if Sanders and Gainwell manage to stay healthy the whole time, which is obviously not a given, I think Boston Scott had a good summer. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get any touches. I don't think it's going to be a ton. I don't think he's going to have a big part of the offense, but I can't imagine he goes the entire season, just being phased out of the offense entirely. It'd be weird. It'd be very weird to me. Again, we saw him had a good summer. Obviously, his skill set, I think, is a little redundant with what Kenny Gainwell does, but I think he still has some value and can be added here. I think it might have been somewhat of a game plan thing. I don't think he's totally just irrelevant here.
Now, Nick always talks about joint practices over the summer, Brandon, made a big deal out of them, obviously put more weight on them than the actual preseason games. One guy who flashed throughout the summer was probably the best player in the game, and that was Javon Hargrave. Is he ready to have that breakout year where he becomes that Pro Bowl type player? Is that more of a Jalen Mayfield, rookie left guard type thing, probably comfortably in the middle, or is Javon that good?
I think Javon's that good. I mean, obviously, the Falcons' offensive interior being weak helped him, but I mean, he dominated all game. Finally, kind of showed up there at the end in terms of the stat sheet. You're talking about 3 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. This guy, as you said, John, we saw it. He was killing it in practice regularly. He's living in the backfield. He already has 2 sacks. His career high, I believe, is 6.5. I mean, especially with the 17th game, I think he's going to eclipse that number. I think it's going to be a career year for him. I don't know if we're talking double digits, but I mean, at this rate, it could be. I think he's going to have a really, really big year. I think it took a year, but that is obviously looking like a really crucial and big signing for them. He's a difference maker, honestly, on the inside there. He not just in terms of him creating pressure himself, but also taking pressure off of other guys. I think we saw Javon or Hassan Ridgeway benefit a little bit from that, and all those guys just playing next to each other and kind of feeding off of each other and taking advantage when the other player gets double teamed. There's extra attention. So yeah, I think Javon Hargrave is in line for a really big year. I felt that way going into the season, and week 1 only confirmed that for me.
BLG, I saw this on your site. I guess Jalen Hurts has the blessing of Donovan McNabb, eh? On an Odyssey outlet, Donovan singing the praises of the Eagles' second-year quarterback. He can be a bit of a tough grader, ask Carson Wentz. If he doesn't line up with what you're attempting to do, he's not afraid to say. Good news that Donovan's in the Jalen Hurts camp?
I think a lot of people might think of Donovan McNabb saying something and not feeling great about it, but hey, I mean, like you said, Donovan kind of right about Carson Wentz. Also, I believe he was famously not really buying into RG3 early on in RG3's career when he was really good. So, I think you kind of have to look at this and be like, okay, maybe Donovan knows what he's talking about, knows what he's seeing. It's a big deal. You're talking about one of the best Eagles quarterbacks, if not the best in franchise history. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good to have that endorsement.
All right, last one from me, Brandon. Like RVD, BLG is a Birds 365 Hall of Famer. But I want to end it with the punter. The punter was great. He was phenomenal. Nobody talks about it. Why isn't Pro Football Focus giving Aaron Cepas love, Jody? That guy was tremendous. He had his first 3 punts were inside the 20. And his net was phenomenal. The one that wasn't was 54 yards, and I think it went down to the 24. He had the Falcons, who were inept, staring at long fields they couldn't do anything with. Aaron Cepas, let's give him some love.
Hey, I'm all for it. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for this one, just not from the fact, obviously the Eagles deserve the real credit. They signed him. But when they did sign him, I remember doing my research on him and being like, and this is, mind you, this is at the time when they signed him, they still had Cam Johnston on the roster. He's going to be a free agent, but I think, we thought they might just re-sign him because he wasn't necessarily going to get interest. He did. And I think that was a good thing for the Eagles because I think they upgraded. I think Cepas, he was in a battle last offseason. I know this is way too much time for people listening to this.
Phenomenal punter, Jack Box.
Exactly. Yeah. So he lost out to the best punter in the NFL, and then the Lions still kept him on their practice squad. So they still liked what they saw in him. So I think it was so to kind of make this kind of more relevant and just about the punter, I want to give credit here to Brandon Brown. Formerly his title was Eagles Pro Scouting Director. Now I think it's just Eagles Scouting Director. They kind of generalized it, whatever. But I think one thing for as many personnel moves the Eagles always haven't done a good job with, especially the draft, or at least until recently. One thing they've been good at is these pro personnel pickups, and I think that was a really good one in this case.
All right, last thing for me, BLG, and as always, thanks much for hopping on. Make sure you hop on Bleeding Green Nation today and get his post-game stuff, a lot of different angles for Eagle fans to check out. I'm pretty sure I asked you this before, that and you don't get the chance this year, and you didn't last year, but you did previously, when you and Jordan Mailata are standing next to each other, eye to eye, who is actually the taller of the two? I'm wondering if, when you get the chance to do that next again, will Jordan Mailata's new payday and pay status actually be the difference? If you add him by an inch, is he going to be an inch taller than you going forward now?
No, I don't think so. I'm 6'9". He's 6'8".
There you go. Not going to happen. Doesn't
If
matter how much money he makes. He's not going to be bigger than
If he
BLD.
stands on his wallet, he'll get an extra 2 inches. And
True.
He'll win. So, there you have it.
Stand on a big pile of cash. Yeah.
There you go. Brandon, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you much for coming on. Good stuff. We'll get you back on soon enough, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
That is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. All 6'9" of them. He's one big dude and does a good job covering the Birds. That's what we're doing here on Birds 365. We'll come back. Got more Eagle stuff to sink our teeth into in hour number 2. Speaking of big guys, not quite Jordan Mailata big, but pretty big in his own right. Our buddy Brendan Works is going to hop aboard with us here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.